You know, I love podcasting. I have since 2006, back when you had to use like a Dixie cup with string to make the thing work. And that's why I'm so excited that we recently moved Mysterious Goings On to Anchor FM to record our podcast. I gotta tell you, I don't regret it a bit. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Not going to lie to you, when I first heard about Anchor, I was a little dubious because I've been doing it the hard way for so long. But I got to tell you, it's very easy. Use a Stripe account. Get sponsors. You're not paying monthly hosting fees. The sound quality is great. The distribution is phenomenal. Friends, download the free Anchor app today if you want to start your own podcast, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Remember, you heard it here first on Mysterious Goings On.
Welcome to Mysterious Goings On. I'm J. Alexander Greenwood. Call me Alex. I'm your host, and I'm so thrilled to be back with yet another chapter detailing the life of the genre writer. I should probably add detailing the life of the fairly unknown genre fiction writer here. If you don't know about me and you happen to just trip along on iTunes, where, by the way, this podcast was named New and Noteworthy, and we received lots and lots of nice downloads, I think, because of that, and perhaps some great promotion and word of mouth from some friends. And anyway, if you just happen to join us and you want to know what this is about, this is a podcast from a basically obscure, unknown genre fiction writer, myself, and my friends who write, and my readers. And what we talk about generally is the writing life and about fiction and just things that appeal to us in that vein. So again, welcome to Mysterious Goings On. If you want to learn more about me, go to pilotscross.com. That's pilatescross.com. Or I'm on the Twitter at @A_Greenwood. You can learn more about me on pilotscross.com in particular, though, and you can go to my shop and you can even order autographed books at a discount. Which brings me to the topic of this week's chapter. We call every episode a chapter. And that's book signings, autographed books, book signings. Okay, all right, I'm going to tell you right now, not a fan. No, not of autographed books. I'll autograph your book any day of the week, twice on Sunday, no problem. Send it to me or order one. I'll send you one, I'll inscribe it. I'll write FU in it if you want. Whatever it is you want written in there, I'll do it. I'm happy, just buy a book. But I'm not a fan of doing the book signing. I've done, produced 4 novels in paperback version. I produced about 6 or 7 other books if you include, not others, 6 or 7 books in total if you include my collection of short stories and a brief book on crowdfunding, nonfiction book there. But I had a book signing for my first book. It was in Omaha, Nebraska at the Bookworm, great bookstore. And it was before they moved, by the way. They've moved to a new location where I've also had a book signing there recently as well. But my first book signing was there at the Bookworm. Let's see, I got a nice brownie and a cup of coffee, and my publicist was there, and she got me some ink and the Omaha newspaper. I actually got several people to come by and who I didn't know and buy a few books, and I signed them, and it was great. Fast forward to last year, where I did the same thing. Early last year, I went back to Omaha. I was speaking at a conference, and my publicist in Omaha, the wonderful Deb Trivet PR, she's semi-retired now, but she's still around if you need some good PR in the Omaha area. And Deb got me a signing back at the new Bookworm. Well, that one wasn't so lucky. Had a great speech at the conference, which was nothing to do with my book, and then I get over to the Bookworm, the new location, and it starts raining cats and dogs. And I don't mean just, cats and dogs like, oh, it's raining a little bit. It was a gully washer, as my grandpa would say. It was bad. Nobody showed up at all. The owner of the store sat with me and kindly sat with me and Deb and chatted, but nobody, I didn't sell one book. Not one person even gave me another look. In fact, most people who saw me seated at my desk there, it wasn't a desk, but it was my table with my books stacked up, ready with a big sign says, meet author J. Alexander Greenwood, get a copy of his new book, chat with him, whatever. People were purposefully, I could tell, avoiding making eye contact who did come in. Because once the rain did slow down, we had a few people come into the store, and people just were, strenuously avoiding eye contact. And in between there, let's see, I have had a book signing at a small bookstore in the Kansas City area where I had a few friends show up and family, but members of the general public basically nil. The most successful book signing I had was, though, when it was paired with a lecture I gave about my journey as a writer at the Kansas City Public Library Plaza branch. It was huge. 60, 70 people showed up. I autographed tons of books, sold a lot of books. It was just a great experience. I also had a very good turnout for a speech I gave that ended with a book signing in St. Joseph, Missouri at the St. Joseph, Missouri Public Library. So what am I seeing here? Okay, there's a few factors at play. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm unknown, so people who go to a Barnes & Noble or go to a very nice bookstore like the Bookworm, they're going to look in the corner and see this guy and go, I don't know who that is. There's over 500,000 books published every year in the United States, I believe, something like that. And if people don't have any idea who you are or what you stand for, the odds of them just ambling over and going, hey, you look like a nice person selling books that, frankly, I didn't come in here to buy. Hey, let me buy one and have you autograph it. Not going to happen, I don't think. Or it doesn't happen, to be honest with you. My first time it happened, maybe that was a fluke that I had a few buyers, but I think ultimately my other experiences show that unless you're offering something besides just, here's me and my books, let me sign one if you'll buy it, The things at the library where I gave a lecture and gave a talk and offered something besides just buy my book to people, I think that helped immensely for that. But I guess my point is, to my fellow authors, and I hope they'll disagree with me if they've had better experiences, and I hope you have had better experiences. To my fellow authors, I would say, unless you're offering a seminar or a lecture or, even a reading, by the way, I don't think is enough if you're an unknown. Offering a reading is very nice if you have a local book club that you're part of or a readers club that will bring their members out to hear your reading. That's one thing. In fact, if you can get into a local book club and ask them to please come to your book signing, so you can do a reading and then they have their meeting there. That might be an idea. That might be a way to go. And speaking of book clubs, I've done a couple of book clubs and showed up and did a brief reading and then listened to them talk about the books. And I found that to be both times a very uncomfortable experience. At one of them, I think somebody got real contentious with me about a typo in the book, and at another one, somebody found a questionable use of a word that I still stand by, but they thought was wrong, and it was just like, rather than talking about the merits of the book, the story, people were getting bogged down in trying to be copy editors and grammarians, I guess. So I took it up with my editor, and my editor said they were full of crap. So anyway, I think for me, though, it was just so darn awkward. And you're talking to a guy or listening to a guy who ran for political office. So it's not that I am awkward around people or have a problem putting my face, for want of a better word, on the line out there. It's not like that. But there is something really tedious and uncomfortable about sitting behind a table with a stack of your books and you just wanting to crawl behind them because you're kind of embarrassed that nobody really wants much to do with you. Anyway, if you're a reader, let me just say this. If you're a reader and you see one of us guys or gals in a bookstore or a library behind a stack, kind of looking lonesome and forlorn, we don't bite. We would love it if you just came up and said, hey, what's your book about? How long did it take to write? Do you have any more? And just say straight up, I didn't come in here to buy this or to check this out, but I enjoyed meeting you, and usually there should be some kind of, card or something with the author at the Author Smart with their, website information. Take the card. Go check out the website. Buy the ebook copy if you're not really wanting to invest in a paperback. That's just a little thing I would ask for you to do. And I would tell other authors, just another tip too, is the book signing is really a good thing for your ego to have one set up and to get a bookstore or a library to agree to it. It's really great for your ego generally all the way up until the day of the signing and if you're unlucky and nobody shows up or you get a very low turnout, then it's really, really, really hard on your ego. It can really bring you down to earth. So I would recommend that if you want to have a book signing, make sure that maybe a book launch party. A very dear friend of mine, she's a writer. She seems to have launch parties where there's wine and she'll do a reading, but it's more of a party atmosphere rather than the sound of crickets chirping while somebody sits behind a table. There's that. Or a seminar, like I've given a seminar and talked about it, and I had a lot of would-be, wannabe writers show up and just want to ask me how I did it. They want to know what the secret sauce is. So that's another thing to do. Some say don't read from the book. I generally don't do readings. I prepare like a short presentation that I use. I like to use PowerPoint or Keynote or something like that talks about where the book comes from. It's kind of in the same vein as how I feel about book reviews. So many people give book reports rather than reviews. Well, as an author, I don't really care to read my work. I'll do it. As you've listened to on this show previously, I hope you've heard that I do read sections from my books. I'll do that. And I'm happy to do it in person, but I think it's different on a podcast. Somebody could say, oh, here's a few chapters, or here's a short story this guy's going to read me. Okay, that's cool. Whereas you want to go sit in an audience and have somebody read a chapter or two at you. I've got mixed feelings on that part. I'd love to know what you think, But ultimately, I think add value to your presentation, add value to what you would consider a book signing. If you're not going to do anything but go sit behind a table, I'll warn you, even my blessed, late, wonderful writer grandpa who wrote for 50 years, put out like 30-something books. I remember seeing him when I was at a very young age, very, very formative years, seeing him at a Walden Books in the mall, sitting at a table right up front, right by the entrance, and I remember this, I'll never forget, just sitting there, basically nobody talking to him, nobody buying his books, nobody even looking at his books. It just, it was just sad. Well, anyway, that's I think about all that I can muster on this chapter about why I just don't care for book signings, with the caveats that if we can make a book signing something more than just a guy or a gal signing books, it might be worth doing. I'd love to know what you think. If you're a writer, feel free to comment on the pilotscross.com blog, which is called Clues, or you can go to the show page and comment there. All those links are around here somewhere on this podcast, or get a hold of me on the Twitter at @A_Greenwood. I would like to know what you think about book signings. Yes, no, maybe, or even book signing horror stories would be fun to hear from you. All right. Well, I think that's about it for this chapter. And we'll be back next week, as always, with another chapter. We're looking into getting some fun guests coming up. I'm going to have another guest, I think, return. I enjoy having this great writer friend of mine from the Great White North come on every now and again. So I'm going to try to entice him to come on again soon. But I also want to get some other writers and some other folks that you might find of interest because, really, frankly, gets kind of old listening to me, right? Don't answer that. Until next time, I'm J. Alexander Greenwood. Keep reading.
It's a great time to get a great deal on a new car when you get approved for an auto loan from PenFed. Our Powered by True Car rates are as low as 1.39% APR on new vehicles. Finance for a longer term to lower your monthly bill. Plus, take up to 60 days to schedule your first payment. Join PenFed and together we'll keep you moving forward. Anyone can apply. Visit penfed.org/auto or call 1-800-247-5626. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA. From regular expenses to occasional splurges, there's a lot to buy. Why not get cash back every time you spend? With the PenFed Power Cash Rewards Card, you get cash back on every purchase. That's everywhere, every time you use it. You can even earn a $100 statement credit when you spend $1,500 in the first 90 days. Visit penfed.org/powercash to apply. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.